All right, Otumba, now, given the kind of scenario that played out with Senator Bukola Saraki, and of course, it is known that the APC leadership is yet to zone the positions. Yes, you say Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is already meeting, but some of these senators who have shown interest in these leadership positions. But will this not cause acrimony among those who are already vying for the posts later? Otumba, if you can hear me, let me repeat myself. The APC leadership is yet to zone the position. So will this not cause acrimony among those who are already vying for the post later?
No, it will not. There will not be those. Oh, she's still speaking. There will not be those elections into those positions without the party coming up with a position paper or a position saying where the positions are going to be zoned. Now, it is after the party has come up with that zoning formula that we begin to now walk around who becomes what. Let's say, for instance, the party zones the position of Speaker to North Central. North Central is a combination of about 5 or 6 states: Nasarawa, Kwara, Kogi, Plateau, Niger, and Benue. Now, within those states, anybody who feels very competent to vie for the position of Speaker will step out. Of course, naturally, when he steps out, he has to campaign among his colleagues. And once he campaigns among his colleagues, it's then a question of, okay, who eventually will majority of those colleagues vote for? Don't forget, voting is across party lines. So it is between the APC members who vote, the PDP members who vote, the NNPP members who vote, Labour Party members who vote, SDP members who vote. What it means is that whoever is vying for any of these positions would have to go across to those other parties to campaign, and even if he gets the vote of his party, which is APC, is not enough to make him win. So what happens is he has to now then lobby, campaign, so that he can get a majority vote of the other people. So it's not any issue that will cause any rancor whatsoever.
All right, so don't you think the APC needs to make its decision known as soon as possible?
I agree with that. And I equally agree that the process of making those decisions known, the process is already in top gear, which is why the party chairman had visited the president-elect, and you know that anything the party will do now, they must carry the president-elect along, because he's ultimately the leader of the party. You understand what I'm saying? So it won't take, in another couple of weeks, the party will come up with its zoning formula.
All right. Still talking about the House of Reps, the opposition caucus has resolved to clinch the position of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. They have 182 seats, which is more than the statutory benchmark of 181. Do you think they can pull this off?
I do not think so. I do not think so, because I know for a fact that it is difficult in a political setting. It is very tough. It is very tough and difficult in a political setting like this for the opposition party to cling the position of Speaker. The ruling party will not be watching why this happens. So I know that a lot of horse trading will still happen. A lot of the APC has 175 members. The PDP has 118 members. The Labour Party has the Labour Party has 35 members. The NNPP has just about 19 members. APGA has 5 members. So if you put the 19 members of the NNPP and APGA, for instance, if you put it with APC, then you have 195. You have 195, or even more. You have about 198 at the end of the day. So 198 cannot compete. The total number of PDP and LP is just about 118 plus 35, about 155, 156, or even slightly less. So there's really no issue here. What will happen is, you see, there are various parties, And there will always be this issue of like minds. There are parties that can form alliance in this respect. And you can see that Labour Party and PDP can work together very easily, while NNPP and APC can work together very easily. So if you combine NNPP and APC and ABGA, they already supersede and overwhelm the opposition. All right. That's my permutation. That's my reading.
All right. Let's leave out the calculation for a minute. Now, what if they succeed? What will this mean for governors if they succeed?
Well, if they succeed, it will not mean too much, because don't forget that the House of Representatives does not particularly control the Senate. They control the legislature, as it were. So therefore, it means that if peradventure they succeed, which is not good for democracy per se, because there will be that discord, there will be that stiffness, there will be that rancor, there will be that controversy, which we should avoid. To have a smooth administration, as well as you should have all the organs of government, particularly the legislature, in agreement with the executive. So I do not foresee this, but if it happens, trust we would manage through very effectively.
Right. So several zones have spoken up. The Southeast zone is laying claim to the Senate presidency to balance the power equation. How feasible is this with what is on ground?
Well, you see, politics is not freebie, and power is not served a la carte. You labor, and you reap from your labor. It should be obvious. The reasonable calculation is to say that between the Southeast and the South, who gave APC better votes. So if it is the South, then you can be sure the Senate presidency will go to South. If it is the Southeast, then there will be nothing wrong in giving it to the Southeast.
So are you of the view that it should go to the South simply because they delivered more votes to the APC?
That's exactly what politics is all about. You labor and you reap from your labor. If you don't vote for a particular party, the only patronage you can get from the party is the constitutional expectation. I mean, to expect that the party, the ruling party will go out of its way to please those of you who did not vote for them, as against those who vote overwhelmingly for them, will be a mirage. Will be some expectation that is just utopian. But at the same time, the Constitution expects a balance. The Constitution expects fairness. The Constitution expects equity. And to that extent, the Constitution has stipulated directly that every state shall have a right to produce a minister. Every state shall have a right to at least to produce a principal member of government. That's why we're saying that in my own permutation, I have it spread out like this. I said the president from the Southwest, the vice president from the Northeast, the Senate president from South, the speaker from North Central, the deputy Senate president from Northwest, and the deputy speaker of the House of Rep from Southeast. This is what I think is a fair balance.
All right. So we also have the Northwest, Northeast, and North Central zones laying claim to the Speaker of House of Reps. Which of these zones do you think should get it? The House of Representatives?
Well, don't forget that when things like this happen in politics, there's always horse trading, there's negotiation, there's persuasion, there's, the leadership of the party will call any of these war. For instance, let me give you an instance. If the Northeast, for instance, as we speak, if the Northeast says they want to lay claim to the Speaker, and the party feels the balance we expect, don't forget the balance is now between zones and even religion. Because religion has been made to be an important factor in our politics. We can't rule it out anymore. So we have to have a balance of religion. More so that we campaigned and voted and presented a Muslim ticket. It's only fair to now give Christians a chunk or one prominent position, as it were. Therefore, it will not be out of place for a Christian to be Senate president. But if you go by contribution of regions, it will not, and between southeast and south-south, it will not go to the southeast. So what I'm simply trying to say is that when we get to this point, every individual that is qualified will strive to get this position. It is the responsibility of the political party to say, no, if we zone it to this place, we will appear very unfair. So please, let us bring it back to this zone. Let's put it in this zone. Let's put it in this zone. So it is not enough that one individual is interested and has the wherewithal. When one individual is interested and has the wherewithal, and it doesn't appear to be a comfortable candidate to the party will call such a person, persuade him, appeal to him, negotiate with him, and, consequently, they will say, look, let's zone it to this, let's zone it to this place. This is the way it happens in politics. Politics is a game of balanced ideology. It's a game of fairness and equity, So that's what I feel.
All right, Otoba, before I forget, you have not addressed, I would like you to address the struggle for speakership between the North Central, Northwest, and Northeast.
Well, we have interested parties from the North Central, Northeast, and Northwest. If you go by votes, the Northwest gave us the highest votes. But if you go by fairness and equity, the North Central should be given an opportunity. It would be nice if the North Central is given an opportunity. Now, the Northeast already has the vice president. And do not take your precedence from the 9th Assembly, please, and even the 8th Assembly. In the 9th and the 8th Assembly, the president was not very frontal as to what he thinks he wants and what he doesn't want. I don't think it should have been the situation. In the 10th Assembly, the president will let everybody see, as I can understand, the president will let everybody see what will bring fairness, equity, and justice to the Nigerian people. To which extent they will decide, the party will decide exactly where the speakership will be zoned. And once the party agrees on the zoning of where the speakership goes, that is what our party will do. But don't forget, our party does not have control as we speak of the House of Representatives. So it is possible the PDP zones to another place, and all of those. But we will negotiate, we would agree, we will lobby and ensure that the right thing is done at the end of the day.
So in that regard, what do you think the APC should do to ensure that this contest does not lead to divisions in the party and in the country?
Very simple. I recommend, and as I'm here, I recommend that the position of speaker should actually be zoned to the North Central. If it is zoned to the North Central, the Northwest just add precedent, right? So the Northwest may be magnanimous, because if you judge by contribution, they have the greatest contribution to our winning that election. Therefore, we need to lobby them, persuade them, negotiate with them to make them agree that they should allow the speakership to go to North Central, while the deputy Senate president comes to Northwest, and the speaker goes to South-South, while the deputy speaker of the House of Reps goes to Southeast. This is what I feel is a fair balance of what we should expect.
All right, so, some analysts are of the view that the president-elect should not show an interest in who becomes leaders of the National Assembly. And I'm not going to ask you if you agree or not, because from your earlier submission, you've indicated that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu must show interest. But the question is, how firm should he be in this situation?
You see, politics is not happenstance. It doesn't just happen. People negotiate politics. People discuss politics. People express interest. People lobby. A president who wants to have a good time and a good tenure cannot close his eyes to who becomes the third most important person in a political setting. The president cannot afford to play laissez-faire and say, oh, no, go and choose among yourself. I can work with anybody who wins any election. It doesn't work like that. It must be a situation whereby the president will discuss with his party members and say, okay, how having gotten the party to zone appropriately, then it comes to a question of, okay, the party has zoned. This is where it is going. The president must show interest. If the president doesn't show interest, then how do they work together? Because there's no way. You can imagine the kind of rancor we had in the 8th Assembly. The 8th Assembly was probably the worst in this democratic experience. And what is the cause of it? The executive and the legislature they did not see eye to eye. The Senate president and the president, they did not see eye to eye in respect of the job. And it didn't go well, you know. But the 9th Assembly was probably, will be categorized probably as the best in this democratic experience, because they did so well by way of how many bills they sponsor, how many bills was assented to by president, and the harmonious relationship they had with the executive. And that is why it is important for the president to show some interest as to who becomes. I'm not saying that the president should manipulate or the president should enforce, but the president should show interest with respect to who becomes the Senate president and who becomes the Speaker of House of Representatives.
So, as against you said the 9th Assembly is seemingly the best of its positions, but then many Nigerians see the outgoing Senate leaders as mere rubber stamp. Do you see the next Assembly towing this line?
There's nothing like rubber stamp. What they mean by rubber stamp is an agreeable assembly. And we are of the same party. Why must we have a rancorous assembly, a rancorous legislature? Why must we have that? Those who say rubber stamp are critics and opposition, who feel that the executive and the legislature must always be at loggerheads. It doesn't work very well for democracy. Harmonious relationship is sine qua non to smooth running of a country, from the executive and from the legislature. So I don't buy that school of thought at all.
So, Otuba, with more political parties like the Labour Party, NNPP, ADC, APGA, and others represented in the 10th National Assembly, what should Nigerians expect from them?
Well, I said to you initially that the politics of the National Assembly is slightly different. Once the leaders emerge in the National Assembly, the rest will be consigned to history. What do I mean? Once the leaders emerge, they will need to appoint principal officers, and every of these smaller parties will want to be made principal officer, at least one out of them to represent, and there will be minority leader again from these smaller parties. The minority leader becomes a principal officer who meets with other principal officers to take key decisions, you know, of the assembly, of the National Assembly. And in that respect, he cannot begin to distort the flow of lawmaking or the flow of legislation, because as a principal officer, he has a responsibility to ensure that, you know, the assembly, the National Assembly is run smoothly. So there's a limit to which you carry your party romance, the political leaning, the political party that brought you into the National Assembly. There's a limit to which you must show that emotional connection. Now, the politics of the National Assembly is what you go there to face squarely.
All right, Otuba, now with the plurality of political parties in the 10th National Assembly, what does it have in store for Nigerians, and what critical issues do you think the 10th National Assembly should urgently look into?
Well, interestingly, I think that we need to look at a few things. A reform-minded legislature is crucial at this point. We have so many societal issues. We have so many issues with respect to governance that is encumbered by legislative provisions. all those legislative loggerheads, legislative knots should be untied by reforms that the National Assembly should embark on. Now, we need to work again on our budget cycle to ensure that our budget cycle runs from January to December. And we need to ensure that the annual budget is aligned with long-term development objective. Then we need to, again, thirdly, we need to work on the cohesion and correlative link pins that should happen between the legislature's oversight function and the executive's manifesto and promises and plans, so that we can then link all of this together to ensure that, because the oversight function of the legislature is to ensure that it should have what we call performance monitoring parameters, such that the oversight functions are seeking to ensure that the promises of the party, which is being headed now by the executive, are activated. 1. 2, the constituency project should align with the promises and the manifestos of the party, such that the constituency projects are in cohesion, and this is what will give rise to wholesome development of the country. These are the little innovations that should come in the 10th Assembly, so that it is not business as usual.
Thank you very much, Otumba. Now, it's just a little over a month to the inauguration of a new president. What are your expectations?
Well, as you know, I am a principal actor in the campaign, primary, and the election. I have expectation. My expectation is just one: that all the lofty plans that Asiwaju has, all the lofty plans he has told us that he has, that endeared us to him, will be executed very well. I am not going to be happy if we are not able to change things in Nigeria. If our government is still going to be business as usual, it will make me very sad eternally, because I have a lot of hope, I have a lot of interest in ensuring that Nigeria, the kind of decadence that exists within our society, at least government is able to take such decadence away. I will be interested. This is my wish. And I pray, I hope, and I wish that Asiwaju will make a difference. I know he has the capacity, but I know there are extraneous factors that may slow him down. And I pray that we are able to overcome these kind of extraneous factors.
So, in that regard, what key areas should be of primary concern to the president-elect to turn around the fortunes of Nigeria?
Nigeria needs to move from a consumer society to a productive society. Whatever it takes, we cannot continue to import toothpicks. So, industrialization of Nigeria should be the first thing Asiwaju should do. When Asiwaju moves towards industrialization, all those SMEs, industries, we used to have Michelin, we used to have a lot of companies within the northern hemisphere. Kaduna, we used to have a lot of manufacturing companies. They are no longer there. We need to make effort to, first of all, bring the manufacturing companies, bring production up. Once there is production, there will be the balance of payments in terms of our foreign exchange will be better. We won't be using all our money to be chasing imports. 3, there will be there will be employment for everybody. A lot of our youths that are not employed will be employed. Thirdly, the GDP will rise. So I wish that Asiwaju will first of all focus on that. Secondly, Nigeria needs to change orientation. The National Orientation Agency requires a boost at this point. There is no reason why we cannot start to let our young people understand that patriotism is the first law. that any citizen of a country can have. So I am thinking that Asiwaju should strengthen the National Orientation Agency to the extent that those our kids in primary school should be taught how to be patriotic to Nigeria. You see, in those days when HIV came, there was a kind of propaganda that greeted HIV that made every human being run away from HIV by miles. We need to let the world, we need to let our young children know that corruption is worse than HIV. And that can only happen if we have a good National Orientation Agency. So I am thinking that national orientation is one of the most primary things we need to do. Imagine if we have primary school children in primary 4, that they are taught from primary 3 and primary 2. They are taught serious civic responsibility. They are made to understand that corruption kills a nation. By the time we have the 8th year of Asiwaju, what it will mean is that a pupil in primary 4 today, in 8 years, would have entered university. And if you are in primary 6 today, in 8 years, you have almost finished university. So if we have a breed of young children or young people that we can give the right orientation and they now go through school, get to university, come out of university, we have a fresh new civil service. We have a fresh workforce. And if we don't do that, Nigeria cannot move an inch forward. That is my idea.
Fantastic. Otumba, it's a pleasure, always a pleasure having you on Politics Tonight. Thank you very much. We've been discussing our legislative agenda for the 10th National Assembly with Otumba Biodun Ajiboye, a political communications expert. Thank you very much for finding time to join us this evening. Thank you very much, Otumba.